You check out, we got a little intro music this time for us. That sounds pretty good. I know that song.
Scooter's
Hey, it's
blog.
Jack and yeah. Hey, it's Jack and GT here. From bed joints to beer joints, because something's brewing. GT, you out there, and I know where you are. Brew Crew, Riverside, having a beer. Are you?
Am I?
There you go. I'm stuck here in Iowa. It's cold and rainy, and I'm having coffee because I don't have any beer like that left. So anyway, welcome back, everybody. This week we're going to go through a couple things. I'm going to touch base on a couple things first, and the first one is our first cooking show came out last week. A very extravagant meal of oatmeal, mustard, and fish. And check it out. The video's out there, so go take a look at it. A lot of people have liked it, so get in there and see what you think of that. Also, as we promised, we're doing some humorous prison stories, and our first video came out on that this week as well. Now, we're going to do a prison story every week, a funny one every week. The cooking show will be every other week. So next week, we'll be doing another one of those. And actually, we're going to make coffee creamer cheesecake. Yeah, sounds bizarre, doesn't it? It's pretty good, actually. And the last thing I want to bring up is we have a book coming out. Don't get scared. We're not here to sell you a book. But the book is based on what some of our videos here about is how prison life helped us out here in, I guess you call it civilian life in the real world. Things we learned there taught us how to deal with things out here like stress and anxiety and, problems in the workplace, the political noise, just plain obnoxious people, all those things. Then books, and we're going to have a special deal. In fact, we might be doing some free books out there just so you folks to take a look at it. So be watching for that in a couple of weeks. We'll make an announcement on that. And GT, that kind of takes me to something here. Last week when we stopped off, you had a story you were going to tell, which I know is very interesting. And can you kind of walk through that story? But also, how did prison help you get to that point? And you take it from there.
Yeah. Well, on this story, it wasn't that prison helped me to get this. It was because we were in prison that this opportunity presented itself. It wouldn't have happened without it. I was I licensed a place, a warehouse, and run and keep our prison break license out of there over in Orange County. Well, there were the guy who does it. He sells beer to this huge Mexican restaurant in San Juan Capistrano. It's like a pretty richy little area down in Southern California there. And anyways, he goes, "Hey, look, I'm going to a tequila tasting at the God, I can't remember the name of this. It's a huge Mexican restaurant, really nice." And he goes, they asked me, they wanted a beer in there too, a couple beers. So I'm bringing mine, and he goes, I'd like you to bring yours. They might like it there. I said, all right, cool. I'll go down there with you. So we go down there, and we go in it. I had never been to this place. It's a big spot, a big, nice Mexican restaurant. And they had a big, like a banquet room. And so we go in, and set up all around was all these tables with high-end tequilas. And most of them had very attractive young women, there. And they had some other liqueurs and stuff, but we were the only beer ones in there. And so I didn't really know who was coming to this thing. They hadn't let the public in yet, or the invited guests, I should say. And anyways, I'm sitting there looking around, and I mean, there's just like some hot blonde next to us, and she was really nice. She gave me a bottle of her tequila, and I'm thinking, well, God, nobody's got a bunch of guys coming. I can't remember the name of it. I called my buddy Mark, but he didn't answer today, and it was the Gauchos or the Palominos. I don't know what it was, but they're kind of an exclusive horse riding club. It's basically kind of a bunch of rich guys there's a lot of horse property in San Juan. And anyways, they go on rides and stuff, and I think they raise money for charities. They're a good group. Anyways, well, while we're getting all set up in that, and all these guys come in, everybody's got cowboy hat. They've got big old cowboy hats on, and they're all up at the bar drinking Coors Light, and I'm thinking, oh man, this is gonna be a tough crowd for me in my prison shit, these guys made something of their life, and I'm thinking this ain't going to work out. We won't get any customers. Well, it started, and there was probably, I don't know, 15, 20 vendors, and they were all going and saying hi to all the girls. Same thing I would have done, same thing you would have done, and maybe having a sip of tequila and everything. Well, about an hour and a half into this thing, they were all standing right in front of our table. drinking shank and just loving it. And and hey, can I get it? Can I get some more of that shanked and everything? I said, yeah, of course. And I had brought a lot, and they were asking me my story, and I was telling it to them, and they go, and they look at me, and some of them were older. There was a few of them probably our age, Jack, and a lot of them were probably 40s and 50s. And they go, man, so you just started your life over? I said, yeah, I got out of prison, and that's our whole thing. Is it's never too late to change your life and start over. And they all thought it was very commendable, actually, and gave me some pats on the back, and I actually misjudged this whole crowd. They were real receptive to what we had going on, and so anyways, they go, you got to get this, you got to get your beer over in at Trevor at the tracks, Trevor's at the tracks, and that's a really nice restaurant right where the Amtrak pulls in from San Diego or going north. It stops there, and he's got a nice big restaurant there. And they go, he has terrible beer. Well, what it really turns out to is he has a lot of craft beer in there, and these guys all drink Coors Light. Well, we talked about Shank, and if Coors Light drinkers like Shanked, they still like Coors Light more. They're Coors Light drinkers, but they can drink Shanked because it's easy to drink. And they go, he doesn't carry Coors Light or Modelo or anything. He got craft beers. He goes, why don't you take your beer near it? I go, well, I've never even been there. And this old guy, older, well, he's my age. I shouldn't say old. I'm fucking old though. Anyways, I'm an old buzzard. And he goes, well, he comes up to me. He goes, well, why don't you tell him Dick was in here and said he ought to taste your beer and give you a try? And Dick looked like a serious guy. And somebody else said, look, somebody else come up to me after I talked to Dick, and he goes, look, man, he goes, you go see Trevor and tell him Dick sent you. Trevor's been trying to get in our horse club, and he'll talk to you at least. So I go over to Trevor at the tracks, and I didn't ask for him the first time. I asked for the manager, like usual. And the manager was there, and he goes, "Yeah, I'll taste it and let you know what I think. Give me your card." Well, I came back down there again because I was going over to that Mexican restaurant. That guy told me, hey, he goes, I'd like to carry your beer. So I went down there to see him again, and I went by Trevor's, and this time I just went up and said, hey, can I talk to Trevor? And is Trevor here? And the hostess says, yeah, can I tell him who's here? And I said, yeah, tell him Greg from Prison Break, and tell him Dick from, I can't remember the club, but let's just say the Gauchos. Dick from the Gauchos sent me over and told me that he would talk to me. So the owner comes out, Trevor, nice guy. And he goes, what you got there, man? And so I pull out the shank and that, and we drink some. And he goes, well, wow. He goes, this is great. He goes, but I have a house blonde. And I think I've mentioned on one of our other shows that a lot of restaurants have a house blonde, and so they won't take shank because shank's better than most of the house blondes. It's better than all of them that I've had. But so he goes, if you get another beer, I'll take it. And so I was going to come down and bring him the IPA. And I said, okay, but he was cool to me. And he doesn't come out and talk to beer vendors at all. They don't come, the owner don't talk to beer reps. The manager does. And then he takes it to Trevor, and Trevor tries them. And, that's not the way it works. So I got to jump of, because of our situation. I got to, which happens all the time. I got my foot in the door. Well, I had given out my card, to a lot of guys. And you know how, Jack, you meet a lot of people, and oh man, I want to help you. This is great what you guys are doing and stuff like that. And a lot of times you don't hear back from them. Well, I get this call, and from this guy, and I forget I think it was Dave, or maybe that was Bob, and Dave was the next guy in the story. He goes, hey, he goes, I'm going down to a big equestrian, horse event, and I'm not going to say equestrian because these guys aren't jumping bars and that. These guys are wearing cowboy boots, and they're going. It's down, it's up in Santa Barbara. He said, and Santa Barbara's hilly, and a lot of cowboys there too, rich cowboys. And they go, we're going to a big event up there, and he goes, I want to buy some cases of shank, and take it up there and give it to my friends up there and give it to the people. And my boys in the club here all said, yeah, grab some. And I said, well, I can't sell it to you. I don't have a retail license. I've only got a wholesale license. He goes, well, and I said, but I can sell it to Trevor, and then you can work out a deal with Trevor and buy it from him. And he goes, oh, okay. So I forget. I think I sold him 8 cases or 6 cases. I forget. And he was just going to give it away. He wasn't selling it, obviously. And so I'm thinking, no big deal. Hey, I sold 8 cases of beer, made a few bucks. So, I delivered it down to Trevor's and that. And then I get a text from the guy like about a week later. And he goes, hey, we were at this event that we were at. Jean-Paul DeJoria was there, and that's the guy. He had Paul Mitchell shampoo, and then he started Patron Tequila, and I think he sold it for a couple billion. And we were all drinking your beer, and we told him your story, and he loved your story, and he goes, a guy that represents him, that's his friend and a business associate, wants to call you and give you a check for $5,000. And I said, yeah, okay, yeah, that sounds great. Have him contact me. We're back to that. Yeah, I hear that shit all the time. I'm thinking, yeah, somebody's gonna give me a check for $5,000. Well, this guy calls me. I see a 310 number, and that's L.A., West L.A. That'll cover Malibu and Santa Monica. He goes, hey, this is Dave. I had your beer, and I'm associates with Jean-Paul DeJoria, and he likes to make them anonymous donations. When he hears something he likes, and he loved your story, and he goes, I don't know if you know his story, but he had a rough time when he was young. And so I went and researched. In fact, I might have had you send me that link. And he had, his wife left him with his kid. I mean, he had a tough time.
Tough
It,
row.
you
He
know,
did have a tough row.
yeah. And I think it was you who sent me that. And I read it, and I didn't know anything about him until I just knew he was Paul Mitchell, and he had made money off tequila. Well, this guy says, look, he goes, he doesn't want anything he doesn't want any thanks. He doesn't want anything. He just wants to give you $5,000. He goes, do you have an address? Who do I make the check out? And give me an address. And I said, well, Prison Break Brewery. And I gave him the address and everything. And I'm still like, this sounds kind of real, but you know, not too many people just come up and say, here's 5 grand. And a few days later, wasn't long either. I got a check. I got a check, and I go, wow, a cashier's check for $5,000. And I was shocked, Jack. I was shocked. And I called the guy. I said, hey, look, Meg, can I bring you up some beer? I'm down in Riverside. It's only an hour and a half. He was over in Santa Monica. And I said, he goes, no, we don't want anything for it. He goes, we like what you're doing. And Jean-Paul just says, keep going, man. Don't quit. And that's all he wants you not to quit. And I got to admit, Jack, at the time, I had quit selling beer. I was getting back in the truck. My bills were astronomical, and it it got me through some rough times. And
That's what inspire you, I think, to keep going when a guy like that tells you to keep going in, whether it gives you money or not. But the money certainly helps, sweeten things up to keep you going. It helps you keep going. But if he doesn't say anything, just gives you the money, I mean, I think the words are worth quite a bit too, coming for someone like that.
maybe more, maybe more, because he didn't give up. And if any of you ever want to go check his story out, he was living in a car with his kid because his wife left him in kind of desperate straits, and he didn't give up. And when you got a billionaire telling you, hey, don't give up, I agree with you. Although the $5,000 it turned out to be right at that time, I still had some money in the bank, but at the time I ran the account down, and I was keeping the beer company afloat, and that 5 grand kept us afloat.
When you get people, like you said, there's a lot of people say, I like your story, I like what you're doing. And then I've had people tell me, don't give up and keep going. But if you know the person's background, well, I can think of one guy, I'm glad he said it, but he works for his dad's farm's always been there. There's a Century Farm's always had money, never been a problem. He goes, I never give up. Well, okay, give up what? And then you meet someone else, a guy like this right here, some other people I can think of, and they tell you don't give up when they've actually had to experience turmoil to get where they're going. It means a hell of a lot more.
it
Whole hell.
means much more. Knowing the guy lived in a car with his kid, and kept going, and is a billionaire now. that
Yeah.
come on. Like you say, when somebody tells me don't give up, yeah, and they were born, in a pretty good life, and maybe even just went to college and got a great job because their family could have, they had a good life. And I'm not judging that. That's a cool thing. But it really, it kind of touched my heart a little bit, saying, man, this guy really, I dare you to find a craft beer company that tells you, well, somebody just gave me $5,000 because they liked what I was doing. Uh,
Yeah. No.
I, I,
And there's
I
nothing against
dare
the
you.
craft beer.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, no, I was
There's
going to
nothing against
say,
the craft beer industry. Is the fact that and it is a business. A lot of guys have, it's their dream to start, and we're not trashing anybody for that.
no,
There's a lot, but the stories are very similar. Guys wanted to get away from what they're doing, go out and try it. Now you got some women who've been doing it and doing very well. Their stories are more compelling to me almost than the guys are, because they're taking a risk in a world where guys dominate. But like you said, how many beer companies have that background story you've got in this company, and it's good enough that somebody like that says, "Here's $5,000." Because no matter how much
right,
money you got, $5,000 is a commitment to
right.
someone, to their story.
Y- Yeah, and like so, and, God, because now that you mention it about the words meant more, the and the money meant more as an impetus to try harder, to keep going, because at the time I was a little down in my head and stuff, and and sometimes when things aren't going your way, you start questioning, man, I thought I had the best idea in the world, and why hasn't it taken off, and you start getting that self-doubt, and sometimes it really, even though deep in our hearts, Jack, we've believed in this since we were in prison and we've never varied from it. You do have them times, luckily I have you and you have me, when we need a little push each other up. And but sometimes the self-doubt creeps in there, and if anybody tells you it doesn't, I don't know, I might have to call bullshit on it, because it's not doubt. It's just like, man, am I ever going to get my break, or what? And then when somebody does something like this for you, you go, wow, they see it too. It's not just me and Jack and my sister, and your wife and your kids. It's not people who love us and care about us that believe in us. It's somebody I've never met and probably never will, because I don't run in them circles. But if I
I
did,
think
I
it
sure
spurs
would
you
like
on
to shake
more.
them.
Don't you think it
Go ahead.
spurs you on more too? Because that's another thing about coming out of prison. I think that I guess you call it favorable, is when you do get a compliment or a keep going, don't quit. We didn't get many of those for years in prison, because in prison they go, shut up, stand over there, be quiet. And if you're
Uh,
like, even you're playing an organized game, in a basketball game like we play, or softball, whatever, no one gives a damn. Everything they say is bullshit. And then you get out here, and then someone says something to you that's really positive, because you're in that place and what you're trying to do because of it. I think it means a hell of a lot more, because we didn't get it for a long time, ever.
no, no. In fact, in sports, if you're doing good, your team or your partner isn't saying great. It's if you fuck up, it's, oh, you dump truck, man. Why didn't It wasn't pats on the back. It was kicks in the ass. It was
Pretty
insults.
much.
Yeah, and
Pretty,
which is okay. That's fun in prison. But that being said, it's funny. I was telling this story from a perspective, and you made me realize some other things about this story. But when you said about the words, and at that, like I said, at that time, I had ran out of money. Our plan was for me to start selling beer and get a distribution deal and raise more money. Well, I talked to a lot of distributors, and they go, "Hey, I like what you're doing. You guys show me a little more, though. Get some more accounts and be in business a little longer." Because I'm trying to get them after only a few months, and so it was so I had to go back to work driving a truck, and it was like kind of a downtime, and it was what I needed. And I think it turns out down the road the money was very important, but at the time the emotional lift uh, was actually more important. That somebody else saw what I was doing was, hey, that's a cool thing, keep going.
exactly. I'm going to go back into something, and you brought it before. is like our planning for all this and stuff. And when we've talked about this, which I think was integral to get us to this point. And people, you might not think we're far enough. We never think we're far enough. But you remember we were back in prison, and I don't think people. In fact, I had someone ask me about this who'd watched one of the videos and heard you mention our office and all that stuff. They go, "Do you have offices in prison?" I said, "We did. Um, Not everybody did." And I kind of go explain to people
Nobody
how we
did.
yeah, no one did, and how we had access to that, and typewriters and TVs and remotes is because there's a way to handle that system. Let's face it, you and I, and you can get anybody in Florence who was there with us, and then I'll call them out on this one. Who's the two guys that ran the yard while we were there? It was us.
Yeah.
You know? And because we ran the education system and the recreation system, and there is nothing else for inmates to do in prison. Those are the two big things right there. And so we did have the benefits of the office because we made our supervisory correctional officers look very good. And we have to admit, as far as COs go, those guys were pretty good guys. Can't say that about a lot of them, but both the guys that ran those departments are pretty good guys. But they look good, and we reaped the benefits for that, and that's where we did all of our planning for where we are right now. And I think from that, and the reason I kind of went there is that helped me when I get out of prison realize uh, you got to take that slow process to get where you want to get, and you got to check all the boxes and get there. And we're going through that right now, so it gives me the patience to go through it. For what put me in prison was skipping all the boxes, speeding up, going around the corner, and grabbing what I shouldn't have grabbed to move ahead. You see what I'm saying there? It taught me something in that area.
It taught me. You know what else is? I'm glad you brought that up because, well, I'll tell you, people. For me, like I didn't do time like that before until I met Jack. Uh, I didn't I just would do whatever, and if whatever my job was, I'd do it well so that the CO would stay off my back. But I just have a work ethic anyway, so that's not a big thing. But at Florence, when I meet Jack and that, and we were I don't know we were down. I think our education and recreation, we're down in the lower percentiles in the country. They keep track of that shit, and Jack took over education, and I was at recreation, but he kind of put me in. I kind of like I do extra. If I'm taking care of the gym, I do extra. I mop the floors once a week. If I do the softball field, I rake it better, I water it better, I put the lines down. And like I tell people, I say, well, that's for us. I'm not doing that for the cops. I'm doing that for us. I use it. I play handball and basketball all the time. I play handball and racquetball all the time in the gym. Well, I mop it once a week because guys sweat and they spit and blow their nose on the. They're nasty dude, nasty people in there, and so I'm doing it for us because we use it, and I dive on the ground a lot, so I'm rolling around in that shit. So I do it for us, but it turns out it starts benefiting us with the cops, and because pretty soon all of our grades are going up in the Federal Bureau of prisons for our recreation, and for you people that don't know, a lot of times the cooler cops a lot of times become rec cops because they don't want to be dicks. They're not custody. Rec cops, not always. I'm not saying any of you guys been in prison. I'm not trying to say they're all cool because they're not. But a lot of times, the cooler COs gravitate towards recreation, education because they don't want to go around and bust people's balls all day, and so it got to the point where like our boss, he was out getting any time around the country that you can go get like stairmasters and shit. They become available maybe from an Air Force base, and you put a bid in for them, and they're like $20 for three of them. And pretty soon our boss knows I would go over in the truck, go to the warehouse, pick it up. I mean, we were getting nice stuff. We reupholstered the whole weight pile, and I use the weights every day, so why wouldn't I? But even though I'm doing it for myself and for the guys, we got a lot of benefits out of it. And it turns out it gives you a little sense of accomplishment. I hate to say it, because it's weird, but it does. I was getting something done while I was in there, and I wasn't thinking about it at the time, but I think it was readying me for when I did get out. I was used to doing everything I could in there to make recreation better, because I liked it. That's all. That kind of, and he let me hire guys. The cop, if you wanted to get a job in recreation, you went to the cop. The cop would always say, "Well, go see Thompson." You know, don't see me. And then I would tell him, I'd say, "Hey, look, it's real simple." I said, "But here's what we do." But I said, "But I'm not trying to tell you be a cop and tell you what to do. I'm just saying this is for us. And if we take care
Exactly.
of our shit, we get better shit." And
Yeah, and people always, you see these guys that try to work their way up the ladder by telling on people. It doesn't work. I mean, these guys are
no,
such idiots. And in the camp, everybody tells it everybody. It's horrifying. And these guys think they're going to get somewhere. We're not getting anywhere for that. If you do it behind the fence, you could get killed because a lot of COs don't even like snitches. And but what they want there is they want their life to be easier and better, and their system's working good. And boy, that's what they want. I mean, like in the education system, we got more guys passing the GED than anybody in the country was doing, and that's a requirement. For prison, you're supposed to be taking get your GED, and me and my little able-bodied assistant Winston, and
Winston.
my paper man, he loved doing paperwork. But anyway, that's how we ended up with an office. We could sit and have planning sessions and do things like that in peace and quiet. And it's a rare circumstance to have all the things that we had and not just do it legitimately. Really, everything we did was legitimate. There wasn't anything we were doing to get that wasn't absolutely legitimate. You know,
Right.
a lot of guys don't try to figure it out. They're always trying to in prison for going skirting the corners and trying to jam things up, and they're in prison trying to skirt the corners and jam things up, and you're not going to get anywhere with that.
No, that's
Well,
it. Basically, they come to prison, and I did it myself. It's the same life they were. I didn't really do it, but it's the same life they were living on the street. And look, I don't want to work, so I'm going to go sell weed. I'm going to go sell coke. It's easier. It's more fun. I make more money. I don't have to work as hard. And it's like, guys, when they come ask me for a job at rec, I said, "Man, you want a job where you don't do shit? You work 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, that's fine." And then they come to me in a couple months, "Hey, I want to get a better pay grade." I go, "Well, you want a better pay grade? You're going to have to work harder."
the pay grades, remember, were they 12, 17, 29,
Yeah,
and 40 cents an hour?
yeah, exactly.
And yeah, and
I
if
thought
you're
they were
getting 40 cents
11.
an hour, like we did, we were the one percenters getting 40 cents an hour. Man, that we were rolling,
Yeah,
in
exactly.
prison
And
standards.
but we earned it, and then
Oh yeah.
but if guys were out picking up the weight pile, they earned it. If the weight pile always looked good, I don't know. I took pride in the gym and the weight pile and the softball field looking good, and it might be corny because it's prison, but I did, and I had cool guys that worked with me, and they played sports and lifted weights too, and they took pride in it, and actually people on the in the like I don't know. You remember when we reupholstered all the weight benches, and
Oh yeah.
man, you wouldn't believe how many guys came up to me and said, "Hey, man, thanks." All the weightlifters, "Thanks,
Yeah.
man." I mean, because the benches had, they would dig in your back. You were down to the board and stuff. Well, I come up with foam rubber and vinyl and stapled them all and redid them all, and they all look cool out there. There was all that blue, and I had so many people come up and tell me, you know, "Hey, thanks, man. It's nice out here again."
Yeah, there are guys appreciate because you ain't got much, and the weight pile it's a holy place in prison. It's a
Yeah.
very holy place. That kind of stuff there. Well, we're gonna jump here or there. We're getting a little short in time, but so back to out in Riverside where you are right now. They got any events coming up out there? Are there any band things coming up? Or
Well,
tell me a
I,
little
I
bit. They do a band thing. What is that? They do a little band thing every now and then there in the bar, don't they?
Yeah, they did it Tuesday night. I'm hoping that Steven's wife got us some video, and they have some musicians come in and just do jam sessions and play some cover songs and play some of their own music. And a couple of the guys been in big successful bands, and they come in and they do that. We're trying to organize some second chance groups maybe to come in here and do an event, and my buddy Steven here will donate a couple bucks a beer, and try to raise some money for some second chance groups here. We're working on that now, and hopefully we'll have some more events coming up, and just trying to bring some awareness to our company, our beer brand, and and we will. And it's going to happen. I'm trying to put together our own little tap room over in Corona, and uh, we'll work it out.
Well, anyway, we're breaking down. That sounds good. So we're going to have some video of that. We're going to get it on the stage, our channel, this next couple of weeks. I hope next week. I hope we get it on there, and people can take a look at that. So we're going to sign her off for now. It's GT and Jack here from Something's Brewing.
Or from Fed joints to beer joints too.
Beer joint, how you want to, but we come back and see us. Subscribe or give us a like or something. You're gonna like this, what we're doing right here. If you're not, give us a message. Tell you what you think and stuff. Leave
Yeah.
you this one thought. Leave you this thought here. If you've never been to prison, describing it, no words are adequate. If you have been to prison, no words are necessary. See you next week, guys. Take
Hey,
care.
talk to you.